What if I told you the reason your containers haven't looked the way you want them to has nothing to do with your ability as a gardener? It has to do with the plants you were sold. Annuals that demand deadheading every few days. Plants that collapse in the August heat. Things that looked beautiful at the nursery and were half dead on your porch by Labor Day. And then the whole cycle starts over again next April with another cart full of plants you'll be replacing again by fall. That cycle is not gardening. That is an expensive subscription to disappointment. And nobody signed up for it on purpose. The 10 perennials in this video were chosen for one reason. They are genuinely, measurably easy. They come back every year without being replaced. They tolerate the weeks when watering gets forgotten. They handle heat, handle drought, handle hard freezes, and they get more beautiful with each passing season, rather than demanding more and more from the gardener trying to keep them alive. Low effort, big impact, every single season. Plant number 3 is the one most gardeners walk right past at the nursery and then regret not buying. Plant number 7 handles complete neglect better than any other container plant in existence. And plant number 10 is the one that makes everything else in the container look more intentional just by being there. Before plant 1, drop your US state in the comments right now. Your USDA hardiness zone is the single most important factor in determining which of these 10 will thrive and overwinter in your specific containers. We are calling out zones throughout this entire video, so find yours and pay attention. And if Garden Senior Living is not already part of your weekly routine, subscribe before this video ends. Practical, zone-specific, low-maintenance gardening guidance goes out every single week. Content that stops you from spending another season on plants that were never going to reward the effort you put into them. Leave without subscribing and the algorithm may not bring the next video back to you. Let's get into the plants. Plant 1. Daylily / Hemerocallis. Plant 1 has over 35,000 registered cultivars. Most American gardeners are growing one of 3 common orange varieties and believe they have seen everything this plant is capable of delivering. They have not even come close. The color range available in modern daylilies: deep burgundy, warm gold, pale cream, near black, soft lavender, blazing red, peachy coral. I can buy colors and combinations that seem like they shouldn't exist. Is so broad that daylilies alone could carry a container garden from June through October without a single color repeated. And every one of those colors is available at mainstream garden centers across the country right now. Each individual bloom opens for one day. That is where the name originates. But a single established container clump produces 40 to 60 buds across multiple stems over a 6-week flowering window. Something is always opening. The display never goes fully quiet. For a low-effort container gardener, here is why daylilies belong on this list. Once established, they genuinely do not need you. No deadheading required. Spent blooms drop cleanly on their own. No weekly fertilizing. Drought tolerant once the root system settles in. Virtually pest and disease free across every U.S. region. And in containers, the restricted root environment keeps the plant tidy without the outward spread that can become an issue in open beds. Divide the clump every 4 to 5 years when the center stops blooming well. Each division becomes a full blooming plant within one season. Your original purchase compounding into multiple containers over the next decade at 0 additional cost. Morning sun with afternoon shade extends individual bloom life noticeably in Zone 7 and warmer. Zones 3 through 9, full sun to partial shade. Drought tolerant once established. The easiest starting point on this list for anyone who wants immediate, reliable, low demand color. Plant 2. Catmint / Nepeta. Walker's Low. Plant 2 produces more blooms per square foot for more months, and with less effort than almost any other container plant available to American gardeners. 6 months of color, 1 trim per season. That is the entire maintenance list. While petunias, the most purchased container plant in America, need deadheading every few days, weekly fertilizing, and complete replacement every single spring. Catmint Walker's Low blooms continuously from May through October and comes back stronger every year without being replaced. The visual is a cascading mound of lavender blue flowers on softly arching stems, 18 to 24 inches tall. Along a porch railing or container edge, it spills forward slightly in a way that looks deliberately designed rather than accidental. The silvery green foliage carries a mild herbal fragrance when touched, and that fragrance is precisely why deer, rabbits, and most biting insects leave this plant entirely alone. When the first flush of flowers begins fading in July, cut the entire plant back by half. It looks severe for about 10 days. Then it returns with a second full wave of blooms that is frequently heavier than the first. 2 complete bloom cycles from one plant in a single season. Gardeners who skip that one cut lose 6 to 8 weeks of color every summer and never quite understand why their catmint underperformed. Now they know. Cat's meow is more compact and fully self-cleaning. It blooms without deadheading of any kind, making it the right choice for smaller containers or gardeners who want the absolute minimum involvement. Six Hills Giant is larger and more dramatic for anyone wanting a bold statement plant anchoring a big container on a front porch or back deck. Our zones 3 through 8, full sun, average soil, once weekly watering once established, even through peak summer heat. Plant 3, Coral Bells / Heuchera. Plant 3 is the one most gardeners walk right past at the nursery. The label doesn't promise dramatic flowers. There's no hummingbird on the tag, and it sits quietly on the shelf while showier plants get loaded into carts around it. That quiet is covering up something remarkable. Heuchera is available in more colors than almost any flowering plant in the garden. Burgundy, silver, lime green, caramel, orange, near black, soft peach, and deep chocolate. More variety than most blooms, and that color is present not for 2 or 3 weeks of peak flowering, but from the moment the plant breaks dormancy in spring through the first hard frost in fall. In zones 7 through 9, it stays fully evergreen, container color and structure through all 12 months without a single additional task. For a low-effort container gardener, this is significant. No waiting for bloom season, no gap between the early performers and the late ones. Heuchera fills its container with rich, saturated color from April to November, or year-round in warmer zones, without needing anything from you. The one thing most gardeners get wrong: placement. Deep shade is the wrong location. 2 to 3 hours of gentle morning light, not full afternoon sun, not total shade, produces color so vivid you will wonder whether the plant is the same one that looked flat and washed out in the shadier spot where it sat before. Palace purple produces deep burgundy leaves that appear almost black in certain light. One of the most dramatic foliage effects available in container gardening at any price. Lime Ricky is electric chartreuse that illuminates dim corners the way nothing else can. Caramel produces shifting amber orange tones that look genuinely different in June than they do in September. Zones 4 through 9, 2 to 3 hours of morning light. That single adjustment is the entire difference between a Heuchera that impresses and one that disappoints. Plant 4, Ornamental Grass / Blue Fescue or Karl Forster. Plant 4 is the only container plant on this list that earns its space in January. Every other pot on your street in the middle of winter looks abandoned, empty, and forgotten. A container with Karl Forster feather reedgrass or blue fescue looks like someone planned it for that exact moment. The upright architectural structure holds clean and deliberate through frost, through snow, through everything winter sends across American yards. That 4-season presence is what separates ornamental grasses from almost everything else in a container lineup. Spring brings fresh green vertical structure. Summer develops the characteristic feathery plumes that move in the lightest breeze and produce a soft, gentle sound no other container plant creates. Fall transitions the entire plant to warm gold, while seed heads begin feeding birds through the cooling months. Winter delivers the standing architectural form that makes a porch or deck look considered rather than neglected. And the maintenance requirement for all of that 4-season performance is exactly one task per year. Cut back to 4 to 6 inches in late February, 5 minutes of work. Then watch it return taller, fuller, and more impressive than the season before. Karl Forster stands narrow and upright at 4 to 5 feet. The most architectural container grass available, and a past Perennial Plant of the Year award winner. Blue fescue forms compact blue-gray mounds at 10 to 12 inches, perfect for smaller containers and mixed arrangements where a low, cool-colored accent is needed without dominant height. Morning Light has fine silver-edged leaves with graceful arching form and soft pink fall plumes, more delicate than Karl Forster, better for gardeners who want movement and softness rather than structure. Karl Forster and Blue Fescue zones 4 through 9, Morning Light zones 5 through 9. Plant 5. Sedum/stone crop. Plant 5 breaks the rule most container gardeners have followed their entire gardening lives without ever questioning it. Better soil produces worse results with this plant. That is not a misprint. Most gardeners reach for premium moisture-retaining potting mix and then spend the entire season watching their sedum grow tall, floppy, and completely unattractive. The rich water-holding soil is the problem. Each sedum leaf stores water inside its own tissue, a built-in reservoir that makes the plant almost entirely independent of your watering schedule. Field observations have documented established sedum going 6 to 8 weeks with zero supplemental water and recovering without any permanent damage. Try that with any annual in a container and see what you come back to. Plant sedum in lean, slightly poor soil. Stop fertilizing it entirely. That deliberate neglect produces better form, stronger color, and cleaner structure than any amendment you could add. The fall color display this plant produces after a summer of being mostly ignored. Deep copper-pink clusters that deepen and saturate as temperatures drop, is frequently the most impressive thing on any porch or deck in September and October. Autumn fire produces those deep copper-pink clusters from September through November and stands upright in containers without flopping. Dragon's blood stays low with vivid red foliage that intensifies dramatically as fall temperatures arrive. Matrona is tall and architectural with burgundy stems and dusty pink blooms that look like something a professional designer placed there intentionally. Zones 3 through 9. Water deeply once at planting, then once every 2 to 3 weeks through summer. When temperatures begin dropping in fall, stop watering completely. The fall color reward that follows requires no further effort on your part. 5 plants in. Which of these are already growing in containers in your yard? Drop the name and your zone in the comments. And if you have overwintered any container perennial successfully, tell everyone watching exactly how you protected the roots through winter. That information helps every gardener reading below this video make better decisions before the cold arrives. Garden Senior Living covers this kind of specific, practical, zone-honest container gardening guidance every single week. If this video has given you something useful already, the subscribe button is the decision worth making before you close it. Plant 6. Wyatt. Lavender. Plant 6 is killed by the same bag of potting mix every single year across America, the one labeled Premium Moisture Control. That specific bag. Lavender evolved on rocky Mediterranean hillsides where soil nutrition is minimal and moisture disappears almost immediately. The rich water-retaining mixes most American gardeners automatically reach for create exactly the root rot conditions that kill this plant. And the frustrating part is that nobody at the garden center will ever tell you that before you buy it. The fix takes 2 minutes and costs nothing extra. I'd mix your standard potting soil with 1/3 coarse perlite or horticultural grit before planting. Use containers with a minimum of 3 drainage holes. Remove saucers completely. Never leave one underneath a lavender pot. That combination makes lavender nearly impossible to kill in a container. Never fertilize lavender in a container. Rich nutrients produce soft, weak stems with almost no scent. The essential oil concentration that creates the fragrance actually increases when the plant is slightly underfed. Neglect here is not acceptable. Neglect is the correct technique. Hidcote is deep purple, compact, and the most cold-hardy English lavender available, surviving reliably to Zone 5. For the South, Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, phenomenal handles heat and humidity better than any other lavender on the market. Bead performing dependably across zones 6 through 9. Grosso carries the highest essential oil concentration of any variety and blooms continuously from June through August for gardeners whose primary goal is fragrance. Position the container where you sit on warm evenings. Brush the foliage as you walk past. The oils release instantly. A fragrant, mosquito-discouraging personal space from a single pot, something no annual ever delivers season after season. Zones 5 through 9 depending on variety. Plant 7, Hens and Chicks / Sempervivum. Plant 7 handles complete neglect better than any other container plant in existence. That is not a figure of speech. Hens and chicks evolved in the Swiss Alps and Carpathian Mountains on exposed rocky ridges at high elevation. Scorching summers, bitter winters, almost no soil, and absolutely no one remembering a watering schedule. Your container garden, even a fully neglected one, is genuinely luxurious by comparison. Each rosette, called the hen, stores water in its thick, geometric leaves so efficiently that it can survive conditions that would kill virtually every other plant in a container. And while it is surviving, it is simultaneously producing smaller rosettes called chicks around its outer edge. Each chick is a fully independent, genetically complete plant. Separate it with 2 fingers, drop it into any container with minimal soil, and it establishes without fertilizer, special treatment, or any attention whatsoever. The plant multiplies on its own schedule and hands you the results. No other plant on this list does that. Cobweb hens and chicks is covered in fine white threads across each rosette that look exactly like delicate spider webs. It stops visitors in their tracks without fail. Red beauty transitions from green to deep burgundy as temperatures fall, looking completely different in November than it did in June. Pacific blue ice produces blue-gray rosettes so unusual that people regularly reach out to confirm they are real. They thrive in containers as shallow as 4 inches, ideal for windowsill gardens, wall planters, and small balconies where deeper containers are not practical. Zones 3 through 8. Lean soil essential. Water sparingly. Once every 2 to 3 weeks in summer, not at all in winter. The more you leave this plant alone, the better it looks. Perennial Plant 8. Coneflower / Echinacea. Plant 8 does more for a container garden than any other single plant on this list. Native to American soil, documented by the National Wildlife Federation as one of the top 5 bird-feeding native plants in the country. Blooms from June through September with minimal deadheading. Seed heads left standing through fall and winter feed goldfinches, chickadees, and house finches from October through February. Self-seeds into surrounding containers and nearby soil, providing free plants every season without any action on your part. A container that earns its space in every single month of the calendar year, without being asked. Magnus Purple is the classic. Larger flower heads than the wild species, more upright habit, universally reliable from Maine to Texas. White Swan is pure white with orange centers and slightly more shade tolerant than purple varieties. Clean and elegant for gardeners who want something beyond the standard color. Hot Paprika produces double orange-red flowers that are the most dramatic modern coneflower available to American container gardeners right now. For any gardener with a vegetable planter or herb container within 10 feet, the pollinator activity a mature coneflower draws directly improves the productivity of every flowering food crop nearby. Monarch butterflies, native bees, and bumblebees treat established coneflower as a primary summer food source. A coneflower purchased this season will self-seed, feed wildlife through winter, return stronger next year, and never once ask to be replaced. Sit with that. And then calculate what you spent last year on plants that did none of those things. Zones 3 through 9. Full sun to light shade. Leave seed heads through winter. Long-lived. An established container planting can persist for 20 years or more with proper seasonal care. Plant 9. Russian sage / Perovskia atriplycifolia. Plant 9 performs better in a container than it does in the ground, and that fact surprises nearly every gardener who hears it for the first time. The contained root system encourages more compact, upright growth than open soil ever produces. Gardeners who grow Russian sage in-ground first and then try it in a container rarely go back to in-ground planting. Once established, it blooms continuously from July through October, 4 full months of blue-purple flowers on silver-white stems. Most perennials give American gardeners 4 to 6 weeks of color under ideal conditions. Russian sage gives 4 complete months regardless of conditions. In a container lineup that needs something reliable carrying the season from midsummer through fall, nothing else on this list delivers that window as consistently. No pest pressure. Deer avoid it completely. The aromatic foliage repels insects naturally without any spray, treatment, or intervention on your part. And when blooming ends, the silver architectural stem structure provides genuine winter interest when every other container around it looks empty and forgotten. The complete annual maintenance requirement, cut back to 6 inches in late February or early March. 30 seconds of work. In return, the plant comes back fuller and more floriferous than the season before. That exchange is almost unreasonably fair. Zones 4 through 9. Full sun, well-drained soil. Standing water will damage this plant even when established. In Zone 4, move the container against a south-facing wall before a hard freeze. In Zones 8 and 9, it may behave as semi-evergreen through mild winters, providing year-round structure without any additional task. Plant 10. Japanese painted fern / Ethereum niponicum. Plant 10 is the one that makes everything else in the container look more intentional just by being there. Every standard green fern in a container looks like exactly what it is. A fern. Japanese painted fern looks like something a professional designer placed deliberately. The care requirements for both plants are completely identical. The visual result is in a different category entirely. The silver and burgundy coloring on each frond looks hand-painted. It is entirely natural, requires no special treatment, no particular fertilizer, and no specific technique to produce. In a shady container arrangement, alongside dark hostas, bright Heuchera, or white astilbe, it adds a metallic, almost luminous quality that makes every plant surrounding it look more considered and more designed. The best container arrangements have something that does what Japanese painted fern does: provide contrast, provide texture, and make neighboring plants look better than they would without it. No other plant on this list does that specific thing in shade. Burgundy lace has the most pronounced purple tones of any painted fern available to American gardeners. The most dramatic choice for anyone who wants maximum visual impact in shade. Ghost is nearly pure silver, almost luminous in deep shade, and one of the most visually striking foliage plants available at any price point in the American market. Pictum. Silver gray with a burgundy midrib running down each frond, is the classic variety that has performed reliably in American container gardens for decades without disappointing. Leave old fronds standing through winter. They insulate the crown during hard freezes. Remove them only when you see fresh growth pushing up from the base in early spring. That one detail protects the plant through everything winter sends and costs nothing but patience. Zones 3 through 8, partial to full shade, consistent moisture preferred. Them returns every spring with more fronds than the season before, growing more beautiful with each passing year rather than demanding more from the gardener. 10 perennials, low effort, big impact. Here is every one of them in one place. Daylily, 35,000 cultivars, 40 to 60 simultaneous buds, no deadheading required, zones 3 to 9. Catmint Walker's Low, 6 months of bloom, 1 trim per season, pest and deer resistant, zones 3 to 8. Coral Bells, year-round foliage color in 12 plus shades, 2 to 3 hours of morning light, zones 4 to 9. Ornamental Grass, 4 full seasons of container interest, 1 annual cut, zones 4 to 9. Sedum, near zero water once established, spectacular fall color, lean soil essential, zones 3 to 9. Lavender, fragrant, mosquito discouraging, perlite amended soil essential, zones 5 to 9. Hens and Chicks, multiplies on its own, virtually indestructible, thrives in 4-inch containers, zones 3 to 8. Coneflower, native, feeds birds through winter, self-seeds into free plants, zones 3 to 9. Russian Sage, 4-month bloom window, 30-second annual maintenance, architectural winter interest, zones 4 to 9. Japanese painted fern, makes every neighboring plant look better, best shade container perennial available, zones 3 to 8. The difference between a container garden that feels like work and one that feels like a reward comes down to a single decision made at the garden center. Not how much you spend, not how long you spend planting, which plants you choose. Every plant on this list was chosen because it does the work itself. It returns. It handles the hard weeks. It rewards patience with more beauty, not more demands. And every one of them earns its space in the container every single month it sits there, not just during a 2-week peak in June. Low effort is not a compromise. With the right plants, low effort produces the most beautiful containers you have ever grown. Which of these 10 are you most excited to try this season? Drop the number in the comments. And if you've been growing any of these in containers for more than 2 years, tell everyone watching how it has performed in your zone. Real results from real containers in real yards help every gardener reading below this video. If this video gave you one plant worth adding, or all 10, the like button is how you help other gardeners find this information. One tap puts it in front of someone who needs it this season. Garden Senior Living publishes a new video every single week. And next week, we're covering the 5 container setup mistakes that cause even the best perennials to underperform. Mistakes most gardeners make every season without realizing it, and fixes that take less than 15 minutes to implement. Miss that video, and those plants we just covered may not perform the way they should. Subscribe so the next video finds you automatically. Now go fill those containers with plants that are finally going to work for you. Garden Senior Living. Low effort, big impact, every season.